The sky above Geneva turned dark at exactly 14:47 hours. Not from clouds or storm, but from something far worse. Admiral Dae-jung stood at the window of the United Defense Command Center, watching as massive shadows fell across the city. He had spent 30 years in the military. He had fought in 3 wars. He had seen humanity at its worst and its best. But nothing had prepared him for this. 16 crystalline ships hung in the air, each one larger than any city on Earth. They appeared without warning, without sound, simply materializing as if they had always been there. Through the window, Dae-jung could see people in the streets below, frozen in place, staring upward. Cars had stopped in the middle of roads. Everything had gone silent. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Lieutenant Yoonji said from her station. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook as she worked the controls. "It's broadcasting on every frequency. Radio, television, internet, even emergency channels. They're everywhere." "Put it through," Dae-jung said quietly. The face that appeared on the main screen was not human. The creature had pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer with internal light. Its eyes were too large, too dark, like pools of oil. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect Korean, though its mouth barely moved. "People of Earth, I am Emperor Thelvor of the Velkari Empire. For 12,000 years my people have brought order to the galaxy. We have guided 900 civilizations from chaos into prosperity. Today we extend this same gift to you." Dae-jung felt his jaw tighten. A gift. They were calling invasion a gift. "You have proven yourselves to be dangerous," the Emperor continued. "Your weapons are primitive but numerous. Your expansion into your solar system is aggressive and uncontrolled. Your history is filled with violence, war, and destruction. Left alone, you will threaten yourselves and others. Therefore, we offer you protection. Surrender your weapons. Dismantle your military installations. Accept our guidance. You have 72 hours to comply." The transmission ended. For 3 seconds, the command center was absolutely silent. Then every console began beeping at once. Reports flooded in from Mars, from Europa, from every human settlement across the solar system. The alien ships were everywhere. Earth had 16. Mars had 7. Europa had 3. The asteroid colonies reported another dozen scattered among them. "Get me Premier Ji-won," Dae-jung said, "and wake up every admiral, general, and commander in the fleet. I want everyone on emergency protocol right now." Across the city, in the United Earth Government Building, Premier Ji-won was already in motion. She had been a soldier once before politics. She understood what she was seeing. The aliens had positioned their forces perfectly. They could strike any target in the solar system within minutes. This was not a negotiation. This was a threat. The Emergency Council assembled in 12 minutes. 47 representatives from every nation and colony appeared on screens around the circular chamber. Some looked terrified. Others looked angry. All of them looked to Ji-won for guidance. "They want us to surrender," she said simply. "They've given us 3 days to give up everything that makes us free. What they're offering is slavery with a pretty name." She paused, looking at each face on the screens. "I know what I want to say to them, but this decision belongs to all of us. We vote now. Do we surrender or do we fight?" "Fight with what?" Someone shouted. "Those ships are enormous. Our weapons might not even scratch them." "Then we'll build bigger weapons," another voice answered. "We'll all die." "We're all going to die anyway. At least this way we die free." The debate raged for exactly 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Then Ji-won raised her hand and the chamber fell silent. "I call for the vote," she said. "All in favor of surrender?" 3 hands rose. Out of 47 representatives, only 3. All in favor of refusal? The rest of the hands went up. 44 people choosing death over submission. Ji-won nodded once. She walked to the communications console and opened a channel. She knew the aliens were listening. They had hacked every system humanity had. They would hear this. "This is Premier Ji-won of the United Earth Government speaking on behalf of humanity." Her voice was calm, clear, and absolutely firm. "We have considered your ultimatum. Our answer is no. We decline. 3 seconds. That's how long it took from the end of the Emperor's ultimatum to humanity's response. 3 seconds to reject slavery and choose war. In the Defense Command Center, Admiral Dae-jung allowed himself the smallest smile. Then he turned to his officers. "You heard the Premier. We're going to war. Lieutenant Yoonji, I want every ship combat ready within the hour. Contact Mars and Europa. Tell Commander Taiho to activate all defensive positions. Tell the asteroid colonies to evacuate civilians and prepare for siege." "Sir?" a young officer said hesitantly. What's Protocol Defiance? Daejung had hoped they would never need it. Protocol Defiance was the plan for fighting an enemy they couldn't possibly defeat. It was guerrilla warfare on a solar system scale. Hit and run, ambush and retreat. Make every inch of space cost the enemy dearly. It means we don't fight fair, Daejung said. It means we use every dirty trick, every desperate tactic, everything we've got. They want a war? We'll give them one they never forget. On the military base outside Geneva, Captain Hana was already running toward her ship. The Phoenix was the fastest interceptor in the human fleet, built with experimental engines that could accelerate faster than any other craft. It was also completely untested in real combat. Hana didn't care. She had been waiting her whole life for this moment. Captain, you're not authorized for launch, a ground controller shouted over the radio. I am now, Hana replied, firing up the engines. The Admiral's orders just came through. All pilots to combat stations. I'm going to get a close look at those alien ships. Someone needs to find their weak spots. That's a suicide mission. Then I better make it count. The Phoenix shot into the sky like an arrow, leaving a trail of blue fire behind it. Hana punched through the atmosphere in 90 seconds and found herself face to face with one of the alien motherships. Up close, it was even more terrifying. The crystalline hull seemed to pulse with energy. She could see smaller ships moving around it like insects around a hive. Phoenix to command, she said. I'm running a full sensor sweep. Get ready to record everything. She dove toward the mothership, her fingers dancing across the controls. The Phoenix twisted and turned, its sensors drinking in every detail. Hull composition, energy signatures, weapon placements, shield frequencies. Every bit of data went straight back to Earth. Then the mothership noticed her. A lance of purple energy slashed through space, missing the Phoenix by meters. Hana laughed wildly and dove lower. They're slow, she reported. Their weapons are powerful, but they can't track fast targets well. We can use that. More energy beams cut through the darkness. Hana weaved between them like she was dancing. Her neural implants processing the combat data faster than any computer. She could see the patterns, predict where the next shot would come before it fired. Phoenix returned to base immediately. Admiral Daejung's voice crackled over the radio. You've got what we need. Just one more pass, Admiral. That's an order. Captain. Hana sighed and pulled away from the mothership, pointing the Phoenix back toward Earth. As she accelerated away, she saw something interesting. Just for a moment, when the mothership fired its main weapon, the shields around it flickered. It was barely noticeable, maybe a fraction of a second, but it was there. Admiral, she said quietly, I think I found something. Back on Earth, Dr. Minho was listening to the alien transmissions, analyzing every word, every pause, every inflection. As a xenolinguist, he had spent his career preparing for first contact. He had just never imagined it would be like this. But he was noticing something strange. The way the Emperor spoke. The words he chose. This wasn't the language of conquerors. This was the language of parents scolding children. The Velkari didn't see humanity as enemies. They saw humanity as dangerous children who needed to be controlled for their own good. They've never had anyone say no before, Minho said aloud. In all their history, everyone surrendered. They don't actually know how to fight a real war. The officer next to him looked up. What do you mean? I mean, they're not expecting us to fight back. They think we'll realize we're outmatched and give up. This is just intimidation to them, not actual combat. If we hit them hard enough, fast enough, we might actually surprise them. The officer stared at him. Are you saying we have a chance? Minho thought about the massive ships outside, the thousands of alien soldiers, the technology that was centuries ahead of humanity's best equipment. Then he thought about Premier Jiwon's voice saying, we decline without hesitation. I'm saying we already won the first battle, Minho said. They wanted us to be afraid. They wanted us to surrender. We didn't, that's a victory. Now we just need to win a few more. Outside, the alien ships hung in the sky like dark gods waiting for humanity to kneel. They would wait a long time. Humanity had made its choice in 3 seconds. Now they would fight to defend that choice no matter how long it took, no matter what it cost. The war had begun. The Velkari didn't wait for their deadline. 48 hours after the ultimatum, their ships moved into attack position. Admiral Daejung watched the displays in the command center as red dots descended toward Earth's orbital platforms. The aliens were coming early, probably thinking humanity would panic and surrender when the first shots were fired. They were wrong. All platforms, weapons free. Daejung ordered calmly. Target the lead ships. Fire everything we have. Earth's orbital defense platforms opened up simultaneously. Railguns, missiles, laser batteries, everything humanity had built over 50 years of space militarization. The weapons struck the Valkyrie shields in waves of fire and energy. For a moment, the crystalline hulls disappeared behind explosions. Then the smoke cleared. The shields held. Not a single mark on the alien vessels. Shields at 98%, Lieutenant Yunji reported, her voice tight with worry. Our weapons barely touched them. Then we hit them harder, Daejung said. Captain Hana, you're cleared for engagement. Show them what the Phoenix can do. In space above Earth, Hana grinned inside her helmet. 46 other fighters formed up around her. The best pilots humanity had. They were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. The odds were impossible, perfect. All wings, follow my lead, she said. We're going for the destroyer on the left. Remember what we practiced. Hit the same spot one after another. Don't give their shields time to recharge between strikes. The Phoenix accelerated and the other fighters followed. They dove toward the Valkyrie destroyer like a swarm of angry hornets. The alien ship fired back, purple energy beams cutting through space. 3 fighters exploded immediately. Then 7 more. The formation kept going now. Hana screamed. All 40 fighters fired at the exact same point on the shield. For just a moment, the concentrated firepower overwhelmed the protective barrier. Hana saw it flicker, saw a gap open up. Torpedoes right now. 6 quantum torpedoes slipped through the gap before the shield reformed. They struck the destroyer's hull directly. The crystalline structure cracked, then shattered. Then the entire ship exploded in a ball of blue fire. We got one. Someone shouted over the radio. We actually killed one. But the celebration died quickly. 31 fighters had been destroyed in the attack. 46 pilots had gone in. Only 15 came back. And there were still 15 Valkyrie motherships and dozens of destroyers around Earth alone. Hana brought the Phoenix around for another pass and saw something that made her blood run cold. More ships were emerging from hyperspace. 20 new motherships, each bringing hundreds of smaller craft with them. The Valkyrie were bringing reinforcements. On Mars, Commander Taiho watched the Valkyrie landing craft descend toward Olympus Mons. The aliens probably thought Mars would be an easy target, a colony with limited defenses. They didn't know about the tunnels. They didn't know about the traps. Wait until they're in the valley, Taiho said quietly to his troops. Let them think they've got us cornered. The Valkyrie soldiers marched into the canyon, their armor gleaming in the Martian sunlight. There were thousands of them, a full battalion, more than enough to overrun a small colonial garrison. Then the walls exploded. Taiho had lined every inch of the canyon with mining charges, hidden under the red dust. The Valkyrie didn't even have time to scream. Rocks the size of buildings fell on them from both sides. When the dust cleared, the entire battalion was buried. One down, Taiho said. About 1 million more to go. Back on Earth, Dr. Minho was making a discovery. He had been analyzing the recordings from Captain Hana's first encounter with the motherships. He had played it back hundreds of times, studying every detail. And he had finally seen what Hana saw. The shields drop for 0.3 seconds every time they fire their main weapon, he explained to Admiral Daejung. It's a tiny window, but it's there. If we can time our attacks perfectly, we can hit them when they're vulnerable. 0.3 seconds, Daejung repeated. That's not much time. It's enough. Barely. We'd need computer-guided weapons, something that can react faster than human reflexes. And we'd need to make them fire their main weapons first. Daejung smiled grimly. So we need bait. Something important enough that they have to use their big guns. He looked at the tactical display at the Valkyrie mothership surrounding Earth. What if we gave them Earth Defense Command as a target? Make them think they can cut off our head with one strike. Minho stared at him. Admiral, that's where we are right now. I know. Start evacuating everyone except essential personnel. We're going to turn this building into the biggest trap in human history. Over the next 6 hours, humanity executed the most desperate gamble in its history. Captain Hana led her remaining fighters in hit-and-run attacks, drawing Valkyrie attention away from Earth. Commander Taiho collapsed tunnels across Mars, making it look like the colony was falling. On Europa, the ice miners rigged their entire station to explode, ready to take any boarding parties with them. And on Earth, Admiral Daejung sat in the command center with just 20 officers, waiting. Above them, orbital weapons platforms locked onto the largest Valkyrie mothership. Below them, Lieutenant Yunji had her finger on the trigger of every defensive weapon Earth possessed, all aimed at one target. All waiting for that 0.3-second window, the Valkyrie took the bait. Their largest mothership moved into position above Geneva, its main weapon charging with purple energy. Daejung could feel the building shaking as power built up in the alien gun. Enough power to vaporize the entire city. Steady, he said quietly. Wait for it. The mothership fired. For 0.3 seconds, its shields dropped. Now, Daejung roared. Every weapon fired at once. Railgun slugs moving at a significant fraction of light speed. Nuclear-tipped missiles. Laser batteries running at 200% power. Orbital kinetic bombardment. Everything humanity had all focused on one spot. The mothership's hull cracked. Atmosphere vented into space. Secondary explosions rippled across its surface. The massive ship began to tilt to fall, its engines failing. It came down into the Atlantic Ocean like a falling mountain, sending tsunamis racing toward 3 continents. But it was dead. Humanity had killed a mothership. The victory lasted exactly 30 seconds. Then Emperor Thelvor's face appeared on every screen again. He wasn't calm anymore. He looked furious. You savages, he hissed. You uncivilized, violent savages. We offered you peace. We offered you protection. And you chose this. Very well, no more mercy. No more patience. We will pacify your species by force. Every city that resists will be reduced to ash. Every soldier who fights will be executed. Every colony will be burned. This is your last chance. Surrender now, or face extinction. Premier Jiwon appeared on Earth's broadcast network in response. She was standing in the ruins of a building damaged by the mothership's attack. Dust covered her clothes and blood ran from a cut on her forehead. But her voice was steady. You came here thinking we were weak, she said. You thought we would be afraid. You thought wrong. Every human who dies in this war dies free. Every city you burn is a city that never bowed to you. Every soldier you face is someone who chose to fight rather than kneel. You want to conquer us? Then come and try. We'll be waiting. In orbit, Captain Hana was refueling the Phoenix, preparing for another sortie. She had lost most of her squadron. She was exhausted, running on stimulants and pure adrenaline, but she was grinning. Did you hear that speech? She asked her co-pilot over the radio. I think I'm in love with our premier. Focus, Captain. More Valkyrie ships incoming. Good. I was getting bored. On Mars, Commander Taiho's forces were falling back to the deep tunnels, the ones that reached down to the planet's core. The Valkyrie were landing in larger numbers now, learning from their mistakes. But Taiho had more surprises waiting. The Martian underground was a maze, and he knew every passage. In the command center, Lieutenant Yunji was coordinating the defense of Earth's remaining orbital platforms. Half of them were destroyed. The other half were running on emergency power. But they were still fighting. Every platform commander had volunteered to stay at their post, even though they knew they probably wouldn't survive the next wave. Dr. Minho intercepted a transmission from inside the Valkyrie fleet. It was heavily encrypted, but he had learned enough of their language to decode it. What he found made him pause. Admiral, he said slowly, I'm reading disagreement among the Valkyrie. Some of their commanders are questioning the Emperor's orders. One of them is broadcasting on a channel I think only I can hear. What's he saying? He's asking if we need help. Daejung turned to stare at the linguist. A Valkyrie commander wants to help us? I think so. His name is Shalneth. He's saying that in 12,000 years no species has ever fought back like this. He's saying his people have forgotten what it means to truly struggle. He's calling us... Minho paused, checking his translation. He's calling us the first worthy adversaries the Valkyrie have faced in millennia. Can we trust him? I don't know. But right now we need every advantage we can get. The battle raged for 3 more days. Humanity fought like cornered wolves, using every trick, every tactic, every desperate strategy. They won small victories and suffered massive defeats. Ships were destroyed. Platforms fell. Millions died. Dr. Minho stared at the data streaming across his screen. The encrypted messages from Commander Shalneth had been arriving for 6 hours now, each one containing information that should have been impossible to obtain. Valkyrie fleet positions, shield frequencies, reactor locations. It was a treasure trove of military intelligence. It was also potentially a trap. Admiral, we need to talk about this in private, Minho said, pulling Daejung into a side office. The Valkyrie commander who's been contacting me just sent detailed schematics of a mothership's interior. He's showing us where the reactor core is located. Daejung studied the holographic display. The reactor core sat deep in the center of the ship, protected by layers of armor and shielding. Getting to it would require going inside the mothership itself. Ships couldn't shoot through the shields from outside, but soldiers inside the shields would be a different story. How do we get people inside? Daejung asked. That's the problem. We'd need to teleport them, and our teleportation technology is experimental at best. The teleportation project had been one of Earth's most classified research programs. Engineer Soman had been working on it for 5 years, trying to crack the physics of moving matter through space instantly. The theory worked. The practice was deadly. In testing, 60% of objects failed to materialize at their destination. They simply vanished into quantum uncertainty. Get me Soman, Daejung said. Now. 20 minutes later, they were in a bunker 300 meters underground, watching Engineer Soman explain why teleporting soldiers into an alien warship was borderline suicide. The Prometheus device can move a person from point A to point B, Soman said, gesturing at a machine that looked like a metal coffin surrounded by glowing rings. But the success rate is only 40%, and that's in a controlled environment. Trying to teleport into a moving spaceship with active shields and interference, the survival rate drops to maybe 20%. So out of 100 soldiers, only 20 would arrive alive, Daejung asked. If we're lucky. Daejung was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, we need volunteers. People who understand the odds and choose to go anyway. Sir, that's a suicide mission. This entire war is a suicide mission. Soman. But if we can destroy even one more mothership, it's worth it. The call for volunteers went out on secure military channels. Major Yuna read the message in her quarters on the orbital platform designated Ghost Station. 200 soldiers needed for high-risk special operation. Expected casualty rate 80%. No guarantee of mission success. No promise of rescue if stranded. She hit the volunteer button before she finished reading. Major Yuna had been an Olympic martial artist before the invasion. She had won gold in 3 different combat sports, mastering every way humans had invented to fight each other. When the Valkyrie arrived, she was one of the first to enlist in the newly formed Ghost Corps, humanity's elite special operations unit. She was 32 years old, had no family, and had spent her entire life training to fight impossible battles. This was what she had been training for. Within 4 hours, they had 400 volunteers, all Ghost Corps, all knowing they would probably die. Daejung selected the best 200 and ordered the rest to remain on standby. They would only get one shot at this. It had to count. While the Ghost Corps prepared for their suicide mission, Captain Hana was planning something equally insane. She called it Operation Swarm. The idea was simple. If Valkyrie shields could stop powerful weapons but struggled with speed, what if humanity attacked with thousands of fast, small targets all at once? Drones, she explained to Admiral Daejung. 15,000 of them. No pilots, just simple AI guidance systems. We launch them all at the same time, aimed at different motherships. The Valkyrie can't track that many targets at once. Some will get through. Maybe enough to overwhelm their defenses. Where are we going to get 15,000 drones? Daejung asked. We build them. Every factory on Earth, every manufacturing station, every 3D printer in the colonies. We strip parts from damaged ships. We use civilian satellites. We throw everything we have into making these drones. Give me 3 days and I'll give you a swarm. Daejung looked at the tactical situation. The Valkyrie had taken up positions around Earth, waiting for their reinforcements to arrive. In 36 hours, 200 more motherships would emerge from hyperspace. Humanity would be facing complete annihilation. You have 2 days, Daejung said. Make it work. The next 48 hours were chaos. Every industrial facility on Earth switched to emergency production. Workers who had never built military hardware before learned how to assemble combat drones. Children helped sort components. Elderly engineers came out of retirement to optimize the designs. Entire cities became factories. On Mars, Commander Tejo was running out of tunnels to retreat into. The Valkyrie had landed an entire army and were systematically clearing the underground complexes. His forces were down to 300 soldiers from an original garrison of 2,000. They were low on ammunition, low on supplies, and running out of places to hide. Commander, One of his lieutenants said quietly, "We should consider evacuation. There's still time to get the civilians off planet." Tejo looked at the tactical map. If they evacuated, the Velkari would use Mars as a forward base. They would launch attacks on Earth from here. The war would be lost even faster. "No evacuation," he said. "We hold Mars as long as possible. Every day we delay them here is one more day Earth gets to prepare." He smiled grimly. "Besides, I've got one more surprise for our visitors. How much demolition charge do we have left? Enough to level this entire sector. Good, start rigging it. If we have to give up Mars, we're taking as many Velkari with us as we can." Back on Earth, Major Yuna and the Ghost Corps were preparing for their mission. 200 soldiers stood in a hangar checking their weapons and armor. They all knew the odds. They had all said goodbye to anyone they cared about. Now they were just waiting for the order to go. Engineer Somin walked among them, explaining how the Prometheus device would feel. "You'll experience something like falling, then crushing pressure, then nothing. If you survive the teleportation, you'll materialize inside the Velkari mothership. From that point, you have 15 minutes to reach the reactor core and plant the charges. After that, whether you succeed or fail, you're on your own. We can't teleport you back. The coordinates are one way only." No one complained. No one asked questions. They just nodded and continued their preparations. Dr. Minho was in communication with Commander Shalneth, receiving final intelligence updates. "He's confirmed the reactor location," Minho told Daejung. "But there's something else. Emperor Thelvor himself is on that mothership. If we destroy it, we kill their leader." "Good," Daejung said coldly. "Maybe the next emperor will be smarter." The plan came together piece by piece. The Ghost Corps would teleport into the flagship. Captain Hana's drone swarm would attack simultaneously, drawing attention away from the infiltration team. Commander Tejo would launch his final assault on Mars, making the Velkari think humanity was collapsing on all fronts. It was desperation dressed up as strategy. It was also their only chance. 0 hour arrived at dawn. Major Yuna stood in the Prometheus device, feeling the metal coffin close around her. Through the small window, she could see the other soldiers doing the same. 200 coffins, 200 warriors, all betting their lives on experimental technology and desperate hope. "Ghost Corps, this is Admiral Daejung." The voice came through her helmet. "What you're about to do is the bravest thing in human history. Whether you succeed or fail, you'll be remembered as the ones who refused to surrender. Good luck and good hunting." The device activated. Yuna felt herself falling through dimensions that shouldn't exist. Reality turned inside out. Her body was here and not here simultaneously. Then crushing pressure like being at the bottom of the ocean. Then nothing. She opened her eyes. She was alive. She was inside the Velkari mothership in a corridor that glowed with purple light. Around her, other soldiers were materializing. Some appeared perfectly. Others arrived screaming, their bodies twisted by the teleportation errors. 83 soldiers died in the first 30 seconds, their forms scattered across quantum space. That left 117. Barely more than half, but they were inside. "Move," Yuna shouted. "We've got 15 minutes. The Ghost Corps ran through the corridors of the alien ship, following the map Shalneth had provided. They encountered Velkari security almost immediately. The aliens were tall, nearly 3 meters, with that strange shimmering skin. They carried energy weapons that could burn through armor. Yuna shot the first one she saw. The bullet took it in the center of mass and the creature fell. More appeared. The Ghost Corps fought their way forward, paying for every meter in blood. Their human weapons worked well enough in close quarters, and the Velkari hadn't expected enemies inside their shields. 6 minutes to reactor, someone shouted. They turned a corner and found themselves facing a squad of Velkari royal guards. These were bigger, stronger, covered in ceremonial armor. Behind them stood Emperor Thelvor himself, his eyes widening in shock. "How did you get inside my ship?" he demanded. The silence after the flagship's destruction lasted exactly 4 hours. Then the sensors picked up something that made every human's blood run cold. Hyperspace signatures. Hundreds of them. The Velkari reinforcements were arriving early. Admiral Daejung stood in what remained of the command center, watching the tactical display fill with red dots. 200 motherships, 3,000 destroyers, 50,000 fighters. It was an armada large enough to burn entire solar systems. And they were all coming here. "How long until they arrive?" he asked quietly. "36 hours," Lieutenant Yunji replied. Her voice was steady, but her hand shook. "Admiral, we can't fight that many. Even with everything we've done, even with all our victories, those numbers are impossible." "I know." Daejung looked around the command center. His officers were exhausted. Everyone was. They had been fighting for 6 days straight, barely sleeping, surviving on stimulants and desperation. Earth's military forces were down to 40% strength. Mars was lost. Europa was holding by a thread. The civilian death toll had reached 18 million. "Get me all colonial governors on secure channel," Daejung said. "It's time for the hard conversation." Within minutes, representatives from every human settlement appeared on the screens. Some looked hopeful. Most looked defeated. All of them looked to Daejung for guidance that he didn't know if he could give. "We've received word that the main Valkyrie warfleet is 36 hours away," he began. "When they arrive, they will have enough firepower to glass every planet in this system. I won't lie to you. The odds of survival are effectively zero." He paused, making eye contact with each representative. "Some of your colonies are proposing surrender, accepting vassalage to survive. I'm here to tell you that I will not order you to fight. This decision must be yours." A woman from the Europa colony spoke up, her voice bitter. "What's the point of surrendering now? They'll never trust us. They'll execute everyone who fought, maybe everyone who didn't. We chose our path when we said no the first time. Then we die with dignity," someone else said. "At least our children will know we tried." "Your children will be dead too," another voice countered. "Everyone will be dead." The debate raged for 20 minutes. Some wanted to surrender, some wanted to fight to the last breath, some wanted to flee into deep space and hope the Valkyrie wouldn't follow. The colonies were fracturing, fear and desperation pulling them apart. Then Premier Jiwon appeared on screen. She looked terrible, her face gaunt from illness and stress. Everyone knew she was dying from the cancer that had been killing her slowly for a year. She had maybe 3 months left even before the invasion. Now she was spending her final days in a war she probably wouldn't survive. "I know you're all afraid," she said softly. "I'm afraid too. I'm going to die soon one way or another. But I get to choose how. And I choose to die free." Her voice grew stronger. "We chose freedom. We live with that choice or we die with it. There is no third option. Not anymore. If anyone wants to surrender, I won't stop you. But I won't join you. I'd rather have 3 days of freedom than 3,000 years of chains." The debate ended. One by one, every colony voted to continue fighting. Even the ones who thought it was hopeless. Even the ones who knew they would die. They all chose the same thing humanity had chosen in those first 3 seconds. No. While the colonies debated, Dr. Minho had been working with Commander Shalaneth on something desperate. The Valkyrie commander had sent schematics for humanity's most terrible weapon yet. A way to weaponize a star. "It's called a stellar destabilization device," scientist Bora explained to the handful of people cleared to know about it. "We target specific isotopes in the sun's core and trigger a cascade reaction. The sun goes nova. Everything in the system is destroyed. The Valkyrie fleet, Earth, Mars, all of it." Daejung stared at the woman. "You're talking about a doomsday weapon. I'm talking about making sure the Valkyrie don't get us. If we can't win, we make sure they lose too. Maybe that will make other empires think twice before invading someone else." It was insane. It was monstrous. It was also strategic genius. If humanity was going to die anyway, why not take the Valkyrie with them? The threat alone might force the aliens to negotiate. "How long to build it?" Daejung asked. "It's already built. We've had the components for years, left over from star mining research. We just need to assemble it and deploy it near the sun. 12 hours of work. And if we use it, everyone in the Sol system dies. No exceptions, no escape. It's extinction or nothing." Daejung thought about his grandchildren evacuated to a colony ship that was heading for deep space. Captain Hyunwoo was leading 15 ships full of civilians, genetic samples, and cultural archives away from the battle. If Earth fell, they would rebuild humanity somewhere else. But it would take generations, maybe centuries. "Prepare the device," Daejung said. "But don't deploy it yet. Let me think about this." He walked away from the scientists and found himself in an observation room, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Valkyrie were coming, an unstoppable force intent on subjugating or destroying humanity. How had it come to this? How had first contact turned into a war for survival? "You look troubled, Admiral." Daejung turned to see Captain Hana standing in the doorway. She was bandaged and bruised, her arm in a sling from her last mission, but she was grinning like always. "We're about to activate a weapon that will kill everyone in the solar system," Daejung said. "Yes, I'm troubled. Are we actually going to use it, or are we just trying to scare them?" "I don't know anymore." Hana walked over to stand beside him. "I've been thinking about that Emperor's speech. The one where he said we were too violent, too dangerous. You know what's funny? He was right. We are dangerous, but not because we're violent. Because we won't quit. That terrifies them. How does that help us? It means they're already losing. They just don't know it yet." While they talked, Lieutenant Yunji was making a discovery in the wreckage of destroyed Velkari ships. She had been analyzing the technology, trying to understand how it worked. What she found shocked her. "Admiral, you need to see this," she said over the communications channel. "The Velkari technology isn't actually superior to ours. It's just different. Their shields are better, yes. But their weapons? Their engines? Their computers? They're using 1,000-year-old designs. They haven't innovated in centuries." "What does that mean?" Daejung asked. "It means they've been so dominant for so long that they stopped trying to improve. They've been using the same tactics, the same strategies, the same weapons for 1,000 years because they never needed to change. They've never faced an enemy that forced them to adapt." Yunji's voice grew excited. "Admiral, we can beat them. Not with superior technology, but with creativity. They don't know how to improvise." It was a small hope. A tiny spark in the darkness. But it was something. Daejung felt his mind starting to work again, moving past despair into strategy. "Get me Engineer Soman and every scientist we have," he ordered. "We've got 30 hours to come up with something impossible. Let's show the Velkari what humanity does best." The next 30 hours were a blur of desperate innovation. Soman proposed using captured Velkari technology combined with Earth's gravity research to create localized singularities, tiny black holes that would last only seconds but could tear apart anything they touched. The physics were theoretical. The engineering was untested. They had no idea if it would actually work. They built it anyway. Meanwhile, Captain Hana was training civilian volunteers to pilot fighters. They weren't good. Most of them had never been in combat. Some had never even been in space before, but they could follow orders and they could fly straight. Against impossible odds, sometimes quantity mattered more than quality. "Just point your ship at the enemy and fire," she told them. "Don't try to be clever. Don't try to be a hero. Just fly straight and trust the rest of us to cover you." A young woman raised her hand. "Captain, what's our survival rate?" "Honestly, maybe 1 in 10, maybe worse," Hana smiled sadly. "But if we don't fight, it's 0. At least this way we die trying." Every volunteer stayed. Not one backed out. On Mars, Commander Taiho and his remaining forces had sealed themselves in the deepest tunnels. The Velkari controlled the surface, but they hadn't found all the underground complexes. Taiho had 300 soldiers and enough supplies for maybe a week. After that, they would starve if the Velkari didn't find them first. "Should we try to evacuate?" one of his officers asked. "To where? Earth is about to be invaded by an armada. Europa is barely holding. There's nowhere safe in the system anymore." Taiho looked at his tactical display. "We stay here. We hit the Velkari whenever they get comfortable. We make them think about us when they're trying to sleep. We become ghosts that haunt them. For how long? Until we die or they leave. Whichever comes first." Back on Earth, Dr. Minho received a final message from Commander Shalneth. It was brief and coded, but the meaning was clear. The Velkari fleet was divided. Many commanders thought humanity should be negotiated with, not exterminated. Others, led by High Counselor Vexra, wanted total destruction. The Velkari Empire itself was fracturing over what to do with the species that had said no. The Velkari war fleet hung in space above Earth like a judge's hand raised to deliver sentence. 200 motherships, 3,000 destroyers, more firepower than humanity had faced in its entire history. Admiral Daejung watched them on the tactical display and felt strangely calm. Fear and hope had both burned away over the past days. All that remained was duty. "All ships report ready," Lieutenant Yunji said. "We're as prepared as we're going to be." Daejung nodded. The human fleet consisted of 42 warships, 300 fighters, and 7,000 civilian volunteers in ships that were barely armed. Against what the Velkari had brought, it was laughable. But no one was laughing. Then something impossible happened. The sensors detected new hyperspace signatures. Ships were arriving, but they weren't Velkari. Different energy patterns. Different configurations. 30 vessels emerged from hyperspace behind the Velkari fleet, and they were broadcasting on human frequencies. Unknown vessels. Identify yourselves, Yunji transmitted, her voice tight with confusion. The response came immediately. Human forces. This is Ambassador Kalseth of the Kethrin Alliance. We've been observing your conflict with the Velkari Empire. We are here to assist you. The command center erupted in shocked voices. Daejung silenced them with a gesture. Why would you help us? We've never even met your species. Because you did something no one else has done in 4,000 years. You told the Velkari no, and you survived long enough to make them bleed for it. That makes you worthy of our attention. There was a pause. The Kethrin Alliance consists of 7 species who escaped Velkari domination. We've been fighting them for millennia, but we must follow the non-interference directive. Young species must prove themselves before we can openly aid them. And how did we prove ourselves? Daejung asked, in 3 seconds. When your premier rejected their ultimatum without hesitation, that showed us you value freedom more than survival. That's the only quality that matters in this galaxy. Before Daejung could respond, the Velkari fleet opened communications. High Counselor Vexra's face appeared on screen. He was massive even for a Velkari, with scars covering his shimmer skin. His eyes burned with cold fury. So the cowards finally show themselves, Vexra said, addressing the Kethrin ships. Hiding behind primitives. How noble. We're not hiding behind anyone, Ambassador Kalseth replied. We're standing beside them. There's a difference. It won't matter. I have enough ships to destroy you all. This system will be cleansed. These humans will serve as an example of what happens when you defy the Empire. Daejung cut into the conversation. You came here to conquer us, to make us kneel. But we're still standing. How does that feel, Counselor? Knowing that primitives bloodied your nose? Vexra's face contorted with rage. You will all die screaming. I will personally ensure that human suffering becomes legend across the galaxy. Your species will be remembered as the ones who chose extinction over wisdom. Better than being remembered as the ones who chose chains over death, Daejung replied coldly. All human forces, weapons free. Show them what we think of their empire. The battle began. The human fleet charged directly at the Velkari armada in what looked like a suicide attack. But it was a distraction. While the Velkari focused on the frontal assault, Captain Hana led her fighter wings around the enemy flanks. The Kethrin ships moved into position above and below the Velkari formation, their weapons beginning to glow with unfamiliar energy. Kethrin vessels are deploying anti-shield weapons, Yunji shouted. They're disrupting the Velkari protective barriers. Across space, the Velkari shields began to flicker and fail. The Kethrins had been fighting this enemy for 4,000 years. They knew every weakness, every flaw, every vulnerability. Technology the Velkari thought was invincible was being stripped away like paper. Human missiles and railgun fire suddenly found their targets. Velkari destroyers exploded. Motherships took damage. For the first time, the numerical advantage wasn't enough. The Velkari were facing an enemy that knew exactly how to hurt them, but Vexra wasn't done. Activate the cleansing fire, he ordered. Deep in the largest mothership, a weapon unlike anything humanity had seen before began to charge. It was a planet killer designed to burn entire worlds to ash. Aimed at Earth, it would turn the cradle of humanity into a lifeless rock. Detecting massive energy buildup in the flagship, Yunji warned. Whatever that is, it's going to fire in 3 minutes. Captain Hana didn't hesitate. All fighters on me. We're going to take out that weapon. Captain, that's suicide. Someone protested. So was everything else we've done this week. Let's go. 500 volunteer pilots followed Hana toward the flagship. Velkari point defense systems opened fire, filling space with deadly energy beams. Ships exploded left and right. Hana watched her tactical display fill with red X marks as pilots died. 200 volunteers, then 300, then 400, but the survivors kept flying. They reached the flagship and began their attack run on the massive weapon. It was exposed on the ship's ventral surface, a glowing sphere of contained energy that was pointed directly at Earth. Hit it with everything, Hana ordered. The remaining fighters opened fire. Missiles, lasers, kinetic weapons, everything they had. The weapon's protective shields held for a moment, then cracked under the sustained assault. Explosions rippled across its surface. Then Hana's ship took a direct hit. Her engines failed. Systems went dark. The Phoenix began to tumble through space, spinning toward the flagship's weapon. Eject! Eject! Her co-pilot screamed. Not yet, Hana said calmly. She adjusted her trajectory manually, using the last of her maneuvering thrusters. The dead ship spun faster, aimed like a bullet at the heart of the planet-killer weapon. "Now," she shouted, hitting the ejection button. Her escape pod shot away from the Phoenix half a second before the ship crashed into the weapon at full speed. The resulting explosion was catastrophic. The planet-killer weapon detonated, and the energy meant to destroy Earth instead tore through the flagship itself. Secondary explosions rippled across the massive vessel. Its hull cracked. Atmosphere vented. The flagship, pride of the Velkari warfleet, began to die. Lieutenant Yunji watched from the command center as Hana's pod drifted away from the explosion.
"Captain Hana has ejected."
"Dispatching recovery ships." But the battle wasn't over. Engineer Soman activated her experimental gravity weapons. Across the battlefield, tiny singularities appeared, each lasting only seconds but each tearing apart anything nearby. 20 Velkari destroyers were consumed by miniature black holes. The impossible physics became reality, and the Velkari began to retreat in confusion. Then Dr. Minho received a transmission from inside the Velkari fleet. It was Commander Shalaneth, broadcasting on an open channel that every Velkari ship could hear. "This is Commander Shalaneth to all Velkari forces. I am declaring the orders of High Counselor Vexra unlawful and void. He has been lying to you. He has been hiding our defeats from the Velkari people. He ordered the use of a planet-killer weapon, which violates our own military code. I am calling for his immediate arrest." The Velkari fleet hesitated. Ships stopped firing. Formations broke apart. The unity that had made them invincible was cracking. Vexra appeared on all channels, his face twisted with rage. "Shalneth is a traitor. All ships, destroy the humans." "That is a direct order." But half the Velkari fleet didn't move. Some ships began to turn toward Vexra's flagship instead of Earth. The Empire was tearing itself apart. Admiral Daijung saw the opportunity. "All ships, focus fire on the command vessels."
"While they're fighting each other, we hit them hard."
The human and Kethran forces pressed their advantage. More Velkari ships exploded. The armada that had come to exterminate humanity was collapsing into chaos. Ships were fleeing, surrendering, or fighting each other. In the ruins of his flagship, High Counselor Vexra tried to regain control, but his own officers refused his orders. One of them, a young commander, drew her weapon and aimed it at him. "You brought dishonor to the Empire," she said quietly. "That is unforgivable." The shot echoed through the command bridge. Vexra fell, and the Velkari invasion died with him. The remaining Velkari ships withdrew, jumping to hyperspace and fleeing the Sol system. A few stayed behind to negotiate surrender terms. The battle was over. Humanity had survived. The cost was staggering. 4.2 million military personnel dead. 18 million civilians. Mars was in ruins. Europa was heavily damaged. Earth itself had scars that would take generations to heal. But the planet was still there. The people were still free. Premier Jiwan survived long enough to sign the Kethran Alliance Charter, officially making humanity an equal member of the galactic community. She died 3 days later, her final words a simple statement that would be carved on her memorial. "We chose freedom." Captain Hana recovered from her injuries and was awarded the Stellar Cross, humanity's highest honor. She accepted it wearing a hospital gown because she had escaped from the medical bay to attend the ceremony. Commander Shalneth defected from the Velkari and was granted asylum on Earth. He spent the rest of his life teaching humans about galactic politics and warning them about other threats that lurked among the stars. Commander Tejo and his surviving soldiers emerged from the Martian tunnels and began the long process of rebuilding their world.